Hi. No, I'm kidding. Hi, my name is Philip True, and I live in New Jersey, and I'm going to be a part of the class of 2025 for the University of Pennsylvania. And in this video, I'm going to give a comprehensive overview on my admissions profile, a brief overview about my Penn essays, and my general thoughts about my Penn application as a whole. Just a quick disclaimer: I was initially waitlisted from Penn, and I got off the waitlist, and I was admitted to the College of Arts and Science. And I'll be majoring in biology, but I'll probably change to biochemistry, but that's not important. And I'll be on the pre-med track. As of now, I don't know how many people were admitted off of the waitlist, but because I assume there's going to be going on a rolling basis up until the start of the fall semester, so I really don't know any hard statistics. Also, I'm certainly not making this video to brag and boast about my accomplishments or anything, but the purpose of this video is really just to provide some perspective, because I know when it was my time in the admission cycle, I wanted to hear from someone who was the same, if not from a similar demographic as I was. So let's get into it. Before we start, please like and subscribe. Thank you. One random night, I was kind of bored writing my essays. I just wasn't trying to write. And so I was just snooping through like the websites for Penn, and I came across this PDF. I think it's called the Common Data Set. And I think most colleges should have it published, but I just know that Penn does. And since you're here for Penn, this is probably what you care about. And so I found the 2019 to 2020 Common Data Set, and it's essentially a breakdown of the admissions process and the decisions and what factors are used to determine whether or not an applicant should be admitted or not, barring the element of luck and chance, of course. And I'll include a link to that PDF in the description below. But yeah, I'm basically going to use that to guide my discussion. It's a video. I'm sorry about that. All right, so let's start off with the academic breakdown. So as you can see from the figure, that sounds really formal. All right, I'm sorry if I'm coming off like super formal. Anyways, so like the rigor of your course load is very important, and this year was no exception. The past year rather. As a matter of fact, it was probably scrutinized even more so since so many schools decided to go test optional. I personally think that I had the most rigorous, if not one of the most rigorous course loads possible. I took all honors and AP courses, and I doubled up in sciences in my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I can post the courses on my transcript that I took right here. And just as important as it is to challenge yourself in these rigorous courses, it goes without saying that you should probably do well in these classes as well. So yeah, I think that's something that probably helps me out in the admissions process. All right, now on to class rank. You see it's not as important as the other categories, but I still think that it can be rather important. I know for me that my rank was probably something that I had going for myself in the admission cycle. I graduated at the top of my class. I was ranked #1, and I was valedictorian. Well, by definition, like I wasn't technically valedictorian because I didn't give a final address at graduation because there were like 11 other valedictorians, but like that's besides the point. But also, it's really key to remember that context is important, because being a valedictorian in a school of like 500 plus people, it's going to be a different story in the eyes of the admissions officer when looking at a valedictorian in a tiny school of like less than 100 people in somewhere in like Wyoming or something, so a place like really obscure. Not that I'm discrediting the accomplishments, but it's just something to take note, as that distinction is probably going to be weighed differently by admissions officers. All right, in terms of like GPA, there's really not much more to say about this because I talked about my rank. But in terms of GPA, my unweighted GPA was a 4.0 out of 4.0, and my weighted GPA was a 7.0 out of 7.0. My school does the GPA system like differently, but I personally find it easy. I enjoy it. I like it. So basically you have like 4 levels, regular, accelerated, honors / AP. And so AP/honor courses are weighed as a 7, accelerated is like 6, and then regular is 5. And so an A in honors or AP is like a 7, a B in honors AP is like a 6, and then so forth. And then same for A, but if you get an A in accelerated, then it counts as like a 6 or something. Yeah. And so basically that's a GPA system, and then they just average it all out through the course of your 4 years and all your 4 courses and whatnot. And for my school system, here is the marks. I don't know why they call it marks, because that's rather European, because we go by grades. I don't know why they say marks. That's kind of weird, but anyways. Hey, Yay, test scores.
Hey! Hey!
This was certainly one of my weaker points in my application. I took the SAT 3 times, twice in my junior year and once my senior year. The first time I took it in August, I got a 1420, which was a 620 in reading and then an 800 in math. And then I took it the next month in September, and I think it improves. I got a 690 in reading and a 780 for math. And then the last time I took it was in September of my senior year, and I got a 1480 with a 710 and a 750. So all in all, I had a super score of 1510, but I only ended up submitting a 1480 because sometimes like super selective colleges such as Penn, like they won't even look at your application if you have a 1600 or something in the category. I don't know about the validity of this, but it was like I'd rather be safer than sorry. And it was probably the best not to send my 1420 because that was probably just a little suspicious. Yeah, but I feel like this was a weaker point in my application because compared to other male Asians, I feel like they're walking in to the into the admissions table with like perfect SAT scores, if not 1500s plus. And so I definitely feel it was like a weaker point, but luckily it was test optional this year, and given the nature of this year, testing was probably taken less seriously. And my essay scores were horrid. I got a 16 for the first 2 times and then an 18 on my last try, but I sent them anyways. But I don't think that really mattered in the end. Yeah. All right, now for essays. I feel like I could extensively talk about my application essay, but I'm not going to. I'll probably save it for a separate video if a lot of people want it. But in short, I think that was one of the stronger points of my application. In the end, I felt extremely confident in my personal statement, and that it could have been the thing that made my application and got me into Penn. But I don't know for sure, of course. In terms of my supplemental essays, my Penn supplementals were by far my favorite. I felt like I spent the most time on them, but again, those were probably my strong points. I don't know. Like, I felt like they were pretty good. I'm not going to talk too much more about my essays because there's kind of no point if I'm not going to read them. But if a bunch of people, comment and ask for it, then I'll most certainly make a separate video addressing that, and I'll read my essays. So for letter of recommendations, these are another important piece of the application. I like to think that I had a strong, if not extremely strong letters. I got my coach to write one, my chem teacher, my junior year English teacher, and my calculus teacher. I chose to write them because, not only did I do well in their classes, but I feel like they got to know me for the most part. I certainly didn't want to choose a class where I was like no emotion. I was just like a rock and showed zero personality at all because, that's the purpose of the letter. That's what the letter that's what the admissions officers are trying to see. That's what it's giving insight on, your personality, your character, you in and outside of the classroom. All right, moving on to the next section, which is the non-academic breakdown, which I feel like this becomes much more subjective. So starting off with my interview, I don't think that my interview was the best. I started off my interview rather poorly. I mean, I FaceTimed him like 4 times, and like he didn't pick up. So I was nervous because I didn't want to be late to my interview, most certainly. But he told me he just didn't have like a connection to the Wi-Fi, and we ended up like talking like 7 minutes later. So that was that. So I think I might have pissed him off somewhat because I'd probably be pissed if someone was calling me like freaking 4 times. But in terms of the interview itself, I feel like 2/3 of the interview was rather mechanical, robotic almost, in the sense that it was just Q&A. And, I went into the interview, prepared, trying to make conversations and, stray from that general format. And I think I did have some success for like 1/3 for 1/3 of the interview. I talked about interests, the city, Philadelphia, and whatnot about Penn. But it certainly wasn't the best, and it certainly wasn't the worst interview that I had. I just think that as long as you hold a conversation and that you're sane, you should be okay. I don't think that this is too crucial to the decision. So yeah, as long as you don't mess up too badly, then you'll be all right. All right, now moving on to the extracurriculars. I personally feel like my extracurriculars were rather like underwhelming compared to like other people. Like I've heard of other people's extracurriculars, and in their videos, it's just like wow, or like, you know, it's just, I feel like I just don't hold a candle to them. But, you know, it really didn't, probably in the end, like, I think as long as you demonstrate you have a passion in something, I think that's what matters the most. But yeah, I'm just gonna pull up my activities. I'll probably put a picture of it right here. So I was a indoor varsity high jumper and varsity hurdler, track captain for the track team for all 4 years. I did that for indoor track was basically winter season, and then spring track, which is outdoor season. And then this next extracurricular activity, I think this was probably something that really made me stand out, or really strengthened my application, was that I was a part of governor's school. And so it was basically a 4-week program with Rutgers University, and I got to conduct research and work on surface hydrophobicity, stuff like that, and basically low key related stuff to COVID. So yeah, I think that was a really good selling point, and I ended up cranking out a research paper with some other peers, and yeah, I think it's really really cool to be published by Rutgers University. It's not peer reviewed, but you know, being published is a cool feat in my opinion, regardless. So that was probably a strong point in my application. And then for another, I said family responsibilities. I said I was a translator. You know, this was fairly straightforward. I mean, for 4 years, I explained and translated bills and documents from Vietnamese to English to my non-speaking relatives. And I also said that I was a track and field mentor because I would sometimes go out and train with people during the summertime. I did it for 11th and 12th grade, or I'm planning on doing so. And then for the rest of it, I don't know how important these were, because like I feel like in the eyes of the admissions officers, these could be seen as like potentially low commitment, but I was vice president of National English Honor Society, the treasurer of Spanish Honor Society, a varsity member of Science Olympiad team. I only say that because I only did Science Olympiad for like in my junior year, and then I quit afterwards because I didn't like it. Yeah, so yeah, that was just that. But I was also a part of a volunteer club, Interact Club, for my junior and senior year, and those are basically all the activities that I put down. Yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like I demonstrated a theme in my extracurricular activities. I just did what I wanted to do, and I guess it ended up working for me. But I suppose as long as you have a passion and you stick with it and you demonstrate that you have a strong interest for it, then I guess that it's what the admissions officers want to see. Now, in terms of like talent and ability, there wasn't really any. I was like a 4-year varsity track athlete for both winter and spring track, but you know, I was never good enough to make it past like sectionals or something, make it to states or any levels beyond that. But I don't know. I probably scored low on that for something, but oh well. And in terms of like honors or stuff like that, I didn't really have too many distinctions. I think the biggest distinction was that I was an AP scholar with distinction, and that was international. And then I just put like the honor societies for the schools, for my schools. So really nothing too stand out-ish, I guess, when it came to that area. I mean, I only say there was nothing like stand out-ish in like terms of like my honors because you know, like AP scholar with distinction, that's like a dime a dozen. Like there are going to be so many smart kids who are applying with 4s and 5s and whatnot. And so that really is rather common, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but I don't know, but depends how you look at it. But yeah, and like National Honor Societies, like a lot of kids get into that, relatively. So because all you have to do to get into those honor societies is just to, you know, meet a certain GPA or have some service hours, and Penn is going to expect that you have a good GPA, so it doesn't really give anything there. But on the flip side, you do graduate with nice chords and stoles, so that's a plus. All right, now for characteristics, character and personal qualities, sorry, whatever they were, I think they shine through in, they must have shined through in my writing and my letters of recommendations, which again, I could go into more in depth about in a separate video. But yeah, they want, whenever Penn looks at, you know, an applicant, they have a certain class that they want to fill. They have, and a class is niches. And if you fit this one niche, then, and you meet their academic threshold, they're gonna be like, hey, this kid, they could really envision you at Penn, basically. And so I guess my personality, ended up fitting what they wanted in that instance. Now for first gen, I was first gen, and that probably did help me in the mission cycle, but there's nothing more to talk about for that. I know alumni relations, but I had some references. I spoke to some people who went to Penn or who currently attend Penn, and I put those down in my references in like Common App, like, oh, how'd you get to know Penn, blah blah blah. And so, yeah. All right, I feel like the rest of the rows are kind of meh, but I did want to touch on level of applicants' interest. When admissions officers are comparing two students of, let's say hypothetically, two students of the exact same profile, academically, extracurricularly, blah blah blah, whatever. But one student has demonstrated that he's much more interested, like he's been visiting Penn, attending their webinars, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. They're probably going to want to admit that student because this student likes us. Wouldn't you want to admit that student too? Because he's demonstrating that he has interest and he actually will attend. Whereas the other student, you don't know if they're going to attend, and that's a big thing with Ivy Leagues and like big name schools. Like they want yield protection, and so if you're probably not going to commit, then they don't want you to hurt that statistic. It's a rather underrated thing for Penn, honestly. I know some schools, they say that they don't care, but they do care a bit, if anything at all. But in the end, all colleges, whether they disclose it or not, they probably wouldn't want to admit of someone who isn't interested in them. For me, Penn was my number one choice, and I wanted to go there since 6th grade. So yeah, I reached out to alumni, current students, made visits, attended webinars, followed them on social media, did my research online, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that I demonstrated a fair amount of interest. All right, so my letter of continued interest, in my opinion, was like a pretty please, short and sweet. I honestly don't know how much of an impact it really had in the end, but I basically reaffirmed that Penn was still my number one choice and that I would absolutely love to go there. But that's really just a superficial take of it. Of course, I thank them for putting me on the wait list, because it was like the first time I ever got put on a wait list. So I was like, oh, okay, it's not a rejection, because I had just experienced a slew of rejections beforehand. By the way, I'm not going to post a college reaction video because some of those reactions just ended so abruptly and they will never see the light of day. It's just not happening. Like I was just so disappointed and let down. So it was just, I don't know. It was just me just awkwardly staring like, damn, that shit really happened. But anyways, so I guess it wasn't a rejection in my mind yet. And I felt like, damn, I was qualified enough to be put on the wait list, but they just didn't have enough room for me. That's how I looked at things. Of course, that's a super optimistic perspective, because I think like when you're in an article, it was a rather recent article, it was like 2021, I could put a link in the description below, but it said like the statistics were 101 out of 2,051 students, so like a little less than 5% of students were admitted off the wait list. So I really had no business being that optimistic, but I'll be honest, I was a bit more resigned than optimistic, because I was just done with everything at this point. Like it was winding down to April, so I was like, let's just get this over with, let's just rip off the Band-Aid. I just really just want to graduate. I just wanted to get the hell out of there. And so like, quite frankly, the news caught me way off guard. I think it was just a random Thursday. I came home from practice one day. I ate dinner. I was getting ready to shop for prom suits, and then I just saw an applicant, email that said your applicant portal has been updated, drawing a blank. But yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, let's just rip this Band-Aid off. And I was like, damn. So yeah, that really made my night, really made my week. I'm still on a high, I feel like, about off of it. And ever since then, my head has been huge, inflated, gas. No, I'm kidding. But because like I wasn't expecting it, because I had committed to Swarthmore on like May something, or like on commitment day. I think Swarthmore had a later commitment day, but that's besides the point. And I was okay with the option. I was pretty content. But I just could not refuse Penn. It's been my dream school since 6th grade. So bearing in mind the statistics of the amount of people that actually get off the wait list, it's probably safe to say that the stars were aligned for me and that Lady Luck was on my side on the day that the admissions officers were reviewing my profile. And It's also worth mentioning that Penn doesn't have a ranked waitlist, so theoretically they are reviewing all of the people on the waitlist. I don't know, that sounds like a lot, but I guess that's what they're doing. So yeah. So all in all, I feel as though I really did put my best foot forward in my Penn application. It was certainly my favorite in the sense that I liked everything about it. This was my number one school, so I put every ounce of effort into this. But yeah, my number one piece of advice is really just to be authentic and be your true self, because at the end of the day, admissions officers want to fill up a diverse want to create a diverse class of individuals rather. And so there will be niches that need to be filled. And so if you fit that niche and you're what they're looking for, then you're probably going to be admitted. It's most certainly not your fault if you don't meet their needs. It's just that it's just not a place that they think that's fit for you, that's a good fit for you, and you probably will end up finding a place that is a good fit for you. That's just the arbitrary nature of the admissions process, and trust me, I've been there and I've had my fair share of rejections. It sucks, it's crappy. You're allowed to feel whatever type of way that you feel. Just, don't dwell on it, I guess, if it's a super negative thought. It's really important to remember that college is not an endpoint. It's a springboard that can launch you into your future so that you could do whatever you want to do for yourself. So, as much as I know how helpful words can be, just hang in there and trust that everything will work out for the better and everything's gonna be all right. Promise. All right, if you made it this far, you're a G. So, you might as well like and subscribe since you're already here. It would be nice to hit, 1K subs. That's my goal right now. I'm trying to become a college YouTuber, who shows his life, his hobbies, food and fitness. I'm dropping a 10K calorie challenge, so subscribe if you want to see that. But yeah, best of luck to you guys when it comes to applying to colleges. That's all I have for you today. Peace.